trying to be ranchers, and it seems there was one boy who was John's son, and the girl of this ranch sort of fell in love while they were stopped there temporarily. So Kent had told me, he said, I need this very special looking ranch, and he said, we'll work there a couple of days, and then that's the end of it. So I said, well, okay. And I knew this fellow who owned the big ranch where this little ranch was located. It was empty, and they dressed it all up and made it look alive, and they put the family in there and everything. He said, we're going to have a little tiny fire. He said, we control the fire by having gas pipes inside the windows. And so when they have to have a little fire, they turn up the whatever a little, and the fire comes out. But he said, it never bothers the building. And he said, I know that's an old historic building. And the rancher who let me have it for their purposes told me, you know, that's an old family tradition in there, and I don't want anything to happen to it. I said, don't worry, Kent McCrae gave me his word. Because you saw that burning building, and Kent McCrae and I are standing up on the hill looking down at it, and I'm petrified. I got to go meet the guy that owns the place, and it's owned by the family. I look around for Kent, and he's gone. I had a hard time living that down. Every time I went to help get another location, well, they looked at me very suspiciously. But I had Kent McRae's word, it was okay.
Good faith, Bob's right. But what we had done with the special effects people is line all the area around the windows with tin. So if the fire got a little out, when it gets this tin, it saved it. However, the wind shifted, and rather than coming up and going out the window, it went back into the other part of the house that didn't have the tin. And the special effects people see it going that way, so they raised the burners so they try to get it to come out. It did destroy the whole house. And
what did you say to Mr. Burris?
I had to call him. I called Mr. Burris that night to apologize and said I'll bring some people in and rebuild it. And he says, no, forget it. He says, we've had it for so many years. He says, just forget about it. So I wanted to repay him some way, but he wouldn't let me. If we used his ranch, other parts of his ranch many times. When you came into the airport, after we got established at Tucson, if you walked down toward the baggage area, that airport wasn't as big as it is today. There was a huge sign over the entrance into the baggage shack, the home of the High Chaparral. And that's been there for years. There was a group of people in Pasadena, California that formed this group, and they had the trappings for all their saddles and uniforms, and Henry Wills, our stunt coordinator, heard about it. He and I went out and talked to the people, and then I had them come in and meet Bill Claxton, and they were all, there was 40-some men in the group, and they came into the studio one night, they all had jobs, their regular jobs, and I made a deal with them, and then I got in a big argument with the extra guild in LA, because they said if I'm taken with it from LA, I have to pay them LA wages. Well, there's no way I can afford these 40 people, and plus our other extras, so I said, we're going to have to cancel the show. Well, it got to be a big hassle back and forth with the extra guild, and they finally relented. So, and I said, there's no way I can truck 40 horses over here either. I'll have to have you ride 40 horses from Tucson. So they came over 2 days ahead of time and spent some time riding horses. And I don't know if you remember the scene. They were up real high. We were up where they had all the horses in line. We had a whole thing there charging down the thing. And Joe Pevney was the director. And he wanted to be up 70 feet in the air to shoot down and see this whole line of horsemen coming towards the camera. And so we had a cherry picker, big crane, that had a basket that we could put a platform on for camera. And the assistant director, he says, well, I'm afraid of heights, so I can't go up. And so I went up. And I was in communication with the people on the ground, and we filmed this scene. A couple of days before that, the group of soldiers had been working real hard. And the sergeant of the group, I think his name was Johnson, he said, no one talks to this group of soldiers except me. I'm the sergeant, I give the orders. I don't want anybody, director, or anybody talking to individual soldiers. I run this troop as a unit, like I'm in the military. So we all agreed to that. So anyways, he came to me and he said, we've all been working 3-4 days out here in the desert in the hot sun, and we think that the salary is a little too low. Well, I had to kind of agree with him, but I said, okay, after work tonight, we're all going to go up and talk to Bill Blacksmith, who was in the apartment house. So about 5 of the Buffalo soldiers, Henry Wills and myself, we get in the elevator, and we're going up to Bill's floor. All of a sudden, the elevator stops with a little overloaded with weight. And we're in there for 10-15 minutes waiting for us. Got a little ranty in the close quarters with all these guys who have been working in the desert for 3 or 4 days. And I said, Turco, I said, if you get me out of this elevator, I'll pay you whatever you want. So I kind of broke the tension on everybody. We finally got up and talked to Bill and agreed to pay him a little more money. But they were a great group of people that I myself think was one of the better shows that we did. We made a statement for doing that group at the time. Yes.
Great job.
story that comes along with it. However, I'm not going to talk. I'm going to let Kent talk.
Well, Rudy showed up on the set the first day, and I'd never met him, because I'd been down here while he was being cast in LA. And so no one knew that much about him. So I went to Denny Allen, our head writer, and I said, take Rudy to the horse and go out and see how he can ride. He said, you know, if he needs some help or whatever. I said he told us he was brought up on a ranch. So Denny came back, and Rudy came back about an hour later, and I went to Denny and I said, was Rudy brought up on a ranch? He said, yeah, chicken. But if you go out to the old set in Old Tucson tomorrow, where the front of the house is, you look out the gate is somewhat in proximity of where it is now. You look down towards the desert, that whole area, there's a big building over on the left side, which wasn't there. That was all open country. And when we first went there, there was a lot of rocks and big stones and everything. So I had that complete area cleared of rocks. We raked it and did a whole thing. And then we had sand and very fine gravel come in over the whole area so that it would be easier for the horses. And if we did horse falls and someone fell off the horse, they weren't landing on any rocks. So it gave us the whole concept of what we could do in front of the house. And then we had piles of decomposed granite that we could add to it like for a horse fall. So that whole front, when you look at it tomorrow, was entirely different than it is today.
And local horses knew which plants have thorns. They got to hold of them or go to the side. The Hollywood horses do that. So they come out, they learn quickly. By the second or third week, we had no particular incidents occurred that day.
I don't know how many of your people went out to the White Stallion Ranch last night. That was one of our prime locations out there because of the rocks and the hills. And along there was I don't know if it's still there today, but there was a long dirt road going into the ranch, about a mile long.
Still there.
It's still there? Okay. So anyways, Henry Wills, myself, and a few other people on 2 Sundays, we went out and we cleared an area about 40 feet wide along that whole road of the cactus that were jumping cactus, we call them, and we cleared all the cactus out of that area. We kept the saguaros and the brush and stuff, so it still had a flavor of the desert. But all the cactus that would hurt animals or people, we cleared out so we could do running shots there without anybody getting hurt.
Is that the Ryan Ranch?
No, that was the White Stallion.
What's that?
The Ryan Airfield was another thing.
Oh, okay.
That's another story.
I have a question for Mr. Darrow.
Yeah.
What was it like working with Carlita?
She's fun to work with. She has a lot of comedy, and she's quite well and healthy.
She had good assets.
She became a hit right away, and so they paired us up fast. And then she had been going out with Pedro, and with another guy, and by the time we wound up the second and third year, she's always good for a couple of episodes a year, and always the same thing. And I would calm her by giving her gifts and stuff, and of course I never did. Oh yes, one time she got me as I think I gave her my sister's hat. Right. And she came and showed the hat because I really love it small.
Don, how about the horsemanship for you?
How about what?
Horsemanship for you. Did you grow up on a
I
ranch?
worked on a ranch. My folks worked on a ranch owned by an old actor named Francis Leonard, and he had cattle out there. And I worked with them for a couple of years riding, messing with the cattle.
This is better.
I can ride all right, yeah.
That's why I retired. You have to double.
You didn't have to double me to save money. But they doubled me one time, and Jerry worked for me coming down that hill with that flower garden show. But I wanted to tell a story about the Cheyenne Indians. I think time for the Cheyenne Indian story to happen here. We had a show that involved the Cheyenne Indians coming into town and tearing the town and shooting it up. And they'd sent for the cavalry to come down and catch these Indians and kill them. And the scene was, they were going to establish the town, how it looked. And you want to be the actor at the end of this show, at the end of this scene, to do something wrong, because it's the whole damn thing over again. You wouldn't live with it. And the scene was, it would open up, the cattle would come through town, they'd drive cattle through, they'd have sheep through, they'd have freight wagons coming in, stagecoach coming in, people walking around, they'd have dogs and chickens. The whole town was functioning, you know. It was about a 10-minute shot. And then here comes the cavalry riding down. And as the cavalry comes into town, there's a barn down at the other end of town, and behind the barn is a rider. And there's a red cue light back there. When the cue light comes on, the rider comes running out of there. He comes up to the cavalry, and the lieutenant says, "Who did this?" And the rider says, "It was the Cheyenne." Okay. So that's the way the scene was supposed to go. So now they're going to rehearse it once and then shoot it. The director says, "I don't have to do this too many times, boys, because it costs a lot of money." So they're going to rehearse it one time. So they did that. He says, "Okay, background action. Here comes the cattle, sheep, freight wagons, stagecoach, pigs, chickens, people. And here comes the cavalry. And the rider, they cue the rider. He rides. As he rides out, he falls off the horse and breaks his arm. Oh my God!" He says, "Give me Bobby Hoy." Here comes Bobby. And, the director says, "Now, Bobby, get on the horse. We'll send Charlie Horvath with you down there behind the barn. He'll help you out. There's a red light there, cue light. When the light goes on, you ride out. You ride up to the cavalry. The lieutenant's going to say, 'Who was it? Who did this?' You say, 'It was the Cheyenne.' You got it?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "Cheyenne. You know, the last person didn't want to ruin this shot." And he says, "Yeah, I got the cue. It says Cheyenne. Cheyenne, okay. Go down by the barn." Rides down behind the barn. So I back all that other crap up. Let's get the cattle up there, the sheep, whatever. Do it. Get it done. So they get all set. He says, "Okay, you ready down there, Charlie?" Charlie, "Yeah, I got Bobby down here. You bet. I'll help him out." And so Bobby's down there behind the barn waiting. And the horse gets a little jumpy. And he's going, Bobby didn't like the dialogue, his rule, he could deliver pretty good, but he wasn't really fond. And he's going over his line, "Cheyenne." He says, "Cheyenne. Cheyenne." And he's okay. The horse gets a little more jumpy. And the director says, "Okay." He says, "Background action." Here comes, they drive the cattle through town. They drive the sheep through town. The wagons are coming in and out. Here comes the stagecoach, the people, the chickens, the dogs, and everything going. Finally, here comes the cavalry. Down through town. Bobby's down there. "Cheyenne. Cheyenne." Charlie's joking, "Yeah, Cheyenne. The red light comes on. Bobby said, "Oh God," he says, he starts out. And as he leaves, he says, "Charlie, what's my line?" And Charlie says, "Chinese." Bobby runs out. Bobby runs out. He just balls out of that horse. Here comes the cavalry. Here comes Bobby. The lieutenant says, "Who was it?" Bobby says, "It was the Chinese." The director says, "What'd you say, Bobby?" He said, "I said Cheyenne." "I don't know about that." He said, "Well, listen, I want to do it over again anyway. Let's just back everything up one more time, that's it." "You got the line?" "Yeah, Cheyenne, do that." Right there. They do the whole damn thing again. Here comes the cavalry, red light goes on, Bobby's down, he rides out, and the lieutenant says, "Who was it?" Bobby says, "The Chinese." It's costing us a fortune, for God's sake. He said, "Bobby, I'm going to do it one more time. And when he says, 'Who was it?' you say, 'It was the Indians.'"
And Bobby came to me and he said, "I've got go over and have an audition with Lee Marvin for a pretty good part of the show. Do you think if I do get it, I can get off? And I said, well, look it up. I've done that with Don from Flapping Eagle. And anyways, Bobby was over. Now, he had never met Lee Marvin, and Lee Marvin had never met him. So it was Bobby's turn to walk up and meet Lee Marvin. And he walked up to him, Mr. Marvin, I could all do dialogue. Which was completely false. Bobby was just pulling a joke on Lee Marvin. They became good friends, but he didn't get the part. Bobby was a prankster.
Yeah, he was.
He was in Honolulu once doing a show. He tells all these stories, so I'm not repeating anything against him. They were all in a big four-story apartment complex for the hotel. And so on a Sunday, they were all off, sitting around. He said, would you ever jump off a four-story and go into the pool? And so he walked over to somebody's room. His room was on the other side. And he said, I'd probably do that. So he backed up into his room, opened the door into this room, and got a big running start. They went through the two rooms, out over the balcony, heading down to the pool. Well, on his way down on the first floor, there's the producer sitting out on his patio having a drink. So Bobby's kind of worried about what the producer's thinking of coming off the thing. So he waved to him as he went. He did this stuff. That's the kind of guy. Yes?
Don, there is an episode towards the beginning of the series where you're tied up between some more. How long did Ken have hanging out there?
What'd you say?
Or you were tied up on the sorrel. Is that the
The
one?
episode is Best Man for the Job.
Yeah.
Wait, we'll show it to you. We'll show it.
Yeah.
Was
They can
that-
show it.
What the hell was that?
Huh?
What was it?
That was down at the end of the parking lot.
That was the case. You want me off the show?
That's right. I told him beforehand, he was kind of walking about some stuff, and I said, well, in the script, Lake Bradford's part gets the arrow, but I said, if any more crap out of you, I'm going to take it. So the arrow. I have a picture at home that Bobby Hoy gave me not too many years ago. And at the battle sequence in front of the chaparral set of the pilot. And under the caption of the picture, as you can see all the smoke and the stuff that people firing guns in this snapshot. And Bobby had written on the card, he says, where's Don Carter? Parentheses, Sam. So you look at this picture, you go, Sam Butler is laying down, neck under by the watering trough out of sight.
I didn't get stepped on.
The last day that Robert Lansing, who was a good actor, had worked on our show, and he stayed an extra half day in the morning. And he was the special agent for the country or something or other, really County, Beaver County. And all of a sudden, Don got called to show up, and he wasn't supposed to work for the day. And so he showed up, works for the day, and with all of that, Robert Lansing goes up to him, takes off his badge, and cleans it up. Don says, welcome to being the top guy for da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and for Cuba. I said, what? He turned looking for everybody to see who was it, and there wasn't one person who could really be there without smiling and laughing, and everybody just broke up. And you thought it was for real, did you? Or did you not?
Yeah, I didn't know what was going on there. And Billy was holding the camera.
Yes, it was real film being shot.
We'd probably been drunk the night before, and I thought I was going to get fired or something, you know.
This was the day of shooting when we were in Tucson. I would work ahead on the scripts that were coming up that we weren't going to shoot in Tucson. But I would try to find scenes with the principal cast where we could shoot them on a continuity. So So it was a whole day of a scene here, a scene there, out of like 5 or 6 different scripts that we had produced in LA. So when this particular scene came up, it wasn't out of the ordinary that we're doing something that didn't tie in with anything really for that day's work. So that's why Bobby Hoy set it up with Robert Lansing to stay over and convinced everybody that Don was going to be away from the show for 6 months. Yes.
Yeah, you're being promoted. Deputy Yuma.
The real beauty of that shot was Carl Payne.
Yeah.
They were going in, bam, it'd be about 4 inches from your face. And then, you know, with good old Carl, and I say, yeah, I'll do it. You might fire me if I don't, you know, so I said, yeah, go ahead, kill me. Yeah, but he's good before there.
Yeah, so was Lee Vasquez, our special effects man. It was so much easier where you didn't have to rig arrows coming in on a wire or something, that you could have 2 people that saved you a lot of time by using a real bow and arrow, and it looked better. And our wardrobe man on Bonanza, it was Dario, and he did the pilot. But anyways, Dario always said he wanted the arrow or a bullet hole to be in the seam, so he didn't have to shoot him in the back and ruin the costumes. He said, do it in the seam, I could break the seam open and sew it back together. But then we didn't do that too long.
I got one more little story about me and Bobby Hoy. It's
Okay.
quick. This is about 1973 or 4, and times were a little lean right then. And I got a call from a gal in Newhall, California, and she says, Don, she said, we got a little wagon train going from Lancaster over into Newhall, and it'll take about 5 days. And can you go out and ride with us? And I says, well, what is the pay that? She says, no, we don't have any money, but we're going to put you in a hotel, fly out here, put you in a hotel, feed you, and you can go to the hotel every night. You don't have to sleep with the rest of the people. You're going to sleep camp out there with the wagon trains. I says, did it pay anything? And she says, I'm sorry, we don't have any money to pay you, but all this other stuff. And I said, well, just a minute, let me look at my calendar. So I got a calendar here, and I look, of course, it's all blank pages. And I said, and I picked up the phone, I said, oh, listen, honey, I'm sorry, but I can spare 1 day. I've got some other stuff to do. I give you 1 day, is that right? She says, you bet, fine, we appreciate 1 day. You hung up the phone, I called Bobby, and I said, Bobby, did she call you? Bobby said, yeah. I said, what'd you say? He said, probably the same thing you did. He said, let me look at my calendar. He said, I look. He said, it's like yours blank. I said, yeah. He said, mine too. What'd you tell her? He says, I told her you were 1 day. That's what I told her. He said, okay, we'll go out there 1 day. About 3 hours later, the phone rings. And the girl says, Mr. Collier, got good news. She said, we had some money come in. We can pay you $500 a day. I says, let me take another look at that calendar. I give that little thing over here, and I'm still blank. Nothing's happened. And I said, by golly, I've had a cancellation. I can squeeze it in 5 days. It's like, oh, Bobby. And I said, you just squeeze it in? He said, you bet, pal. We got it.
Yes.
You all had a lot of fights, fist fights in the bars and all that against Apaches, against yourself. Did anybody ever really get hurt?
No. I can't, at all the shows, I can't think of anybody ever getting hurt. We always had a doctor on the set. His name was Doc Fancher.
Oh, my God.
And the backstory of Dr. Fancher, he was a licensed surgeon at UCLA with one eye. Nothing happened, but he became so successful as a licensed surgeon, no one ever talked about the one eye. And in the 50s or sometime, he had a heart attack. And So he quit the business, and his wife moved to Mexico. He always wanted to live down there. And so they called him from UCLA, and they said, we've been experimenting with a new kind of heart procedure where we open up the heart completely. Now, this is back in the 50s, before they had the technology yet. And they said, we've tried it on 2 different people. It's been successful for one, and we lost the second one. And he said, if you want to try it, you'll be the 3rd guinea pig. So he agreed to come back, and he did the operation, and it was successful, but it left him with a tremor in his hand he had to shake. And so he couldn't ever work again as a licensed surgeon or in the profession. So he joined a group of people that did movie work. And he was a knowledgeable man, kept reading books and knew everything. He was down here always with us when we worked in LA on location. But he just one glass eye. We would have 300-400 people out at Old Tucson every day, standing around behind ropes, looking at us. You know, it was a whole crowd of people. But Doc Fancher sometimes, he'd go over and lay down on a rock. He'd go to sleep. But this one eye was open. So all the tourists would walk by and see this guy. And if you ever seen anybody with a glass eye, it looks like he's tracking you like this. And we had people fainting and getting nervous. The whole thing was screwed. Like, finally had to tell him, you're going to go to sleep, go back to the trucks or something. So we got up with all the tourists. He was a great doctor, as I said. We never had a bit of trouble. We had sprained ankles, we had knee. Bobby Hoy got backed up his knee. Nothing ever serious, because all the stunt work was created, and the stunt people worked together completely. They knew what was going on at all